Welcome to a short refresher course on mandated reporting from Blue Sky Bridge. As you probably know, Blue Sky Bridge is the Child Advocacy Center serving Boulder County. Our mission is to foster safe communities, healing, and justice to end child abuse. Mission statements don't always give an accurate picture of an organization's work. You might be thinking, don't we all advocate for kids? Yes, but Blue Sky Bridge offers a unique form of advocacy. In simple terms, we work hard to ensure all kids grow up free from abuse. And when that isn't possible, we provide trauma-informed intervention and support to make healing possible. We also work closely with our community partners in law enforcement and human services. Thank you so much for working with kids every day. As a child-facing professional, you are a vital, trusted adult whose job it is to keep kids safe. Much of that role involves supervision, guidance, and listening. You also have legal obligations as a mandated reporter. The goal of this training is to provide a basic review of mandated reporting and add a layer of information around a type of abuse that is often overlooked. If you are new to mandated reporting, this isn't the video for you. Instead, please return to our YouTube channel and access our training entitled, You Are a Trusted Adult. Okay, let's jump right in. It's tempting to feel overwhelmed or detached from yet another training about mandated reporting. Stick with us, though. We promise to keep this straightforward, and we promise you'll learn something new. As a reminder, you aren't just a mandated reporter, you are a trusted adult. That means kids feel comfortable talking to you about anything. It also means they might disclose abuse, neglect, or violence in the home. When a child discloses abuse, it's because they trust you and they think you can help them. They need you to act because they don't have the power to change their own situation. We need you to be a superhero for kids. Since you're a mandatory reporter, anytime a child discloses that they have suffered abuse, you will need to report it. If you observe any behavior that makes you suspect abuse or neglect, you need to report it. Examples of neglect are leaving a child unattended, not providing a safe home environment, maybe a child wearing smelly or dirty clothes, or a child not having food or bringing food when it's required. If you suspect neglect, make a report. In most situations, the neglect may not be intentional. The family may be going through a rough time and may need help accessing resources. If you suspect a child is being trafficked, you need to report it. Remember, trafficking is the exchange of anything sexual for something of value. This could be as direct as performing a sexual act in exchange for cash, but it could also be more subtle, like sending pictures in exchange for paying someone's cell phone bill. If you see or hear about any inappropriate pictures or videos of a child, you need to report it. Sexual behaviors between children are on the rise, accounting for up to 40% of child sexual abuse reports. Like any other type of behavior, some sexual behaviors are common in children and are not, in and of themselves, cause for concern. Most of the time, a reminder or redirection from an adult is enough to stop the behavior. If, however, a behavior is significant, such as one involving physical contact, or the behavior continues, or perhaps you see or hear about multiple behaviors that worry you, then it's time to take action by reporting and involving your school administrators. For more in-depth information on sexual behaviors between children and the appropriate response, you can always reach out to Blue Sky Bridge. Sometimes a situation may feel gray in terms of whether to report. If you're not sure, just make the call and let the experts figure it out. Don't feel the burden of needing to decide if it's worth it or conduct your own investigation. You are simply passing on information. Now let's talk about responses to the child. When a child discloses abuse, it's the first step in healing. Your response needs to be measured, reassuring, and protective. It's important to remain calm by not showing panic, shock, or anger. Avoid asking too many questions and instead focus on listening and taking deep breaths. Flood the child with affirmative statements. You can say things like, I believe you, it's not your fault, and I'm really glad you told me. These types of statements reassure the child that they are not in trouble. Let the child know you're going to share what they told you with someone else whose job it is to keep kids safe. Tell them it's important that they just keep telling the truth. Then, as soon as possible, make a report. When the situation only involves children and the children are 10 years or younger, you need to talk to your school principal. You can make the report together. Talking to an administrator is not the same thing as making a report. If you're unsure, make the report. It may be that you'll only make a report to the Department of Human Services. In all other cases, especially if the alleged offender is an adult, it's best practice to report to both the Department of Human Services and law enforcement. The agencies serve different but crucial roles in abuse investigation, so reporting to both ensures a holistic response. Be prepared for the report screener with student demographic information, such as name, birth date, contact information, caregivers' names, any identified disabilities, siblings in the home, and languages spoken. Remember, they will ask you many questions you won't know the answer to, which is typical. It's fine to say, "I don't know," and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be making a report. The list of questions is fairly standard, so they may not all apply to your individual situation. Stay the course and finish your report. In the state of Colorado, there is one number to report abuse: 1-844-CO4-KIDS. Okay, that's it. You're officially refreshed on mandated reporting, but we're not done yet. When we were reviewing the situations where a report is indicated, we used pretty broad categories like abuse, neglect, and trafficking. Did you know that witnessing domestic violence, or even being present in the home when it occurs, is also child abuse? That means if a child discloses domestic violence in the home, it needs to be reported. In Colorado, additional charges of child abuse are added to the list of crimes during a domestic violence incident if children witness or were present for the violence. Reporting that a child has witnessed or been exposed to domestic violence isn't a suggestion or best practice. It's the law. You might be wondering, why? Research shows how damaging violence in the home is to kids. Here are some facts to consider. Children who come from homes where domestic violence is occurring are 7 times more likely to also experience physical abuse. They are 6 times more likely to be sexually abused. They are at increased risk of developing problematic sexual behaviors. They are more likely to display problems with learning and behavior due to exposure to chronic trauma. Coming from a home where domestic violence is occurring is on the list of adverse childhood experiences, what some people call ACEs, which is linked to increased mental and physical illnesses later in life. Let's acknowledge that reporting domestic violence doesn't feel as straightforward as reporting child abuse. That can make intervening difficult. Oftentimes, the situations are complicated, and you don't want to make the environment worse. Here's a couple points to remember. First, it can be safer for the victim if an outside party reports the abuse. That might also help them access safety planning, therapy, and support for the victim or children. This can improve outcomes. Lastly, offender treatment might be court-ordered. You can do this. We believe in you. So what might it sound like? What would be a clue that a child is experiencing domestic violence at home? Some things you might hear are, "Mommy and Daddy fight." "Daddy and Mommy are always mad." "My parents hurt each other." "My dad told my mom he was going to kill her." "I get scared when my parents argue." Or, "I can't sleep because my parents are fighting all the time." The appropriate response to any of these comments is, "Tell me more about that." Then, your job is to listen and remember as many details as you can about what the child said. If the child discloses physical abuse between 2 adults in the home, follow all the tips for responding to a disclosure, and then report it. If the child gives vague responses or doesn't disclose anything specific, you can remind them that you are a trusted adult and it's your job to keep them safe. Then consider referring the child to the school counselor if appropriate. Resist the temptation to overthink your role as a mandated reporter. Trust your instincts, and if something seems off with a child, make the call. It's a good thing to be wrong about. Remember, Blue Sky Bridge is also a resource available to you, so you can always call us anytime for advice. Our goal is to make this part of your job just a little bit easier. Let's finish today by acknowledging the complexities of your job and celebrating the difference you make every day in the lives of children. Thank you for all you do.